Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast. I'm Laura Hill, and today I am talking to, I'm talking to my friend who is also one of my mentors and the person that I question all the time when I'm having problems with difficult colour. She is like my colour guru. Welcome, Sarah Spiers.
Thank you very much. Hello. This is so exciting, honestly. I'm
No.
really excited. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for inviting me on this amazing journey with you.
I'm so glad I'm doing it with you, with my friend.
I think, how can we not have so many friends being hairdressers?
No, I know. We're so lucky, aren't we?
We're so lucky.
I can't remember how we met. Oh, I think we met. I think we just started talking on Instagram, didn't we?
I think so.
And then I found out about Chaulk Education and stalked you. And then last year you invited me, you let me come on your course. And I'm now a colour master, thanks to you.
Yes, yeah, of course. And as everyone should be, a colour master.
Yes,
I think I just think I don't know, we must have connected somehow, probably through Instagram. And I think you're wonderful. I love how you share things. I love how you think. And I think that is something that we do in hairdressing. You know, we connect with people very quickly. And when we're on the same level, intelligence wise, emotionally wise, whatever, there is always something that we can resonate with. And it just so happened to be, I mean, the way you speak is so eloquent anyway, and the way you explain things to your clients and what you do with your own education as well. It's amazing. You inspire people, and you inspired me, and I think that's what happened. We connected that way, didn't we? And then what I realize, what you do and what you say resonates with what I do and what I say too. So don't they say, like, you know, you in your crowd, you know, you should have people that are like-minded, you know, because then they big you up, they empower you and inspire you. So I'm glad we're friends.
I'm so glad we're friends. There's that saying, isn't there? And it says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I love that.
I love that. I've not heard that one before. Oh,
there we go. Because you're like the sum total of the people you surround yourself with, aren't you? So I prefer show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Like, I
I
love
love
that.
that. That's so nice.
We're so lucky to have each other.
Oh,
Okay. So let's stop love bombing each other. And let's get into you, because there is so much to unpack with you. So I would really like to start at the beginning, because I think, unlike a lot of people in our industry, your history in this industry, what you've done and what you've been through, the people you've worked for and the things that you've achieved, like, it makes so much sense where you are now and the huge amounts of value that you have to give in this industry. So can we start from the beginning?
oh my goodness, it's a long time ago. It's absolutely such a long time ago. I was thinking about this the other day because, like, I was born in the late 60s, and so in the 80s, when we were like teens and getting our careers set, the 40s were like 40 years ago, and now we're in the 2020s. You know, it's the same sort of distance. The 80s were like, for me, how the 40s were. It's like, wow, it's that long ago. So I do apologise, it's a long time ago. So yeah, I started sort of mid 80s. Great time to start hairdressing. Great time to start hairdressing, because we just come out. I mean, hairdressing is so influenced, sorry, by fashion and music. And I saw what I'd gone through with the so disco, and then punk, and then new romantic, and then we were coming out onto, as I was starting work, it was like acid house and house music and stuff like that, which really inspired fashion and inspires hair. That's how I see it working. So when I started training in 1987, I just jumped onto the first ever franchise of Tony and Guy. And this guy was absolutely amazing. His name's Tony Ulatowski, but we had to call him Peter because his name was Tony. And, you know, you can't have a franchise of Tony and Guy and be called Tony. So, and we all followed suit. And I don't know if Tony and Guy still do that, but we had to change our name if there was somebody else with that name, which was quite bizarre, I thought. But anyway, it was a really good grounding foundations. And I think from Tony, what I took was his alternative way of thinking. You know, so there was this whole body of the actual college and everything, Tony and Guy College up in London, that we would go to, and we would be seen as like the outsiders because we're the first franchise. But I learnt so much from them. But what I learnt from Peter Ulatowski was the outward thinking, the different that you could do. So of course it was the same sort of training, and we had to do vardering. And yes, I had, at the time, perms were really popular. So there were 9 perms I had to do in my final test and 14 colours. So I had to find the models. I had to outsource all of this, bring them all in. Had not very much money. I was an apprentice, but the support was amazing, absolutely amazing. And then from there on, I moved to, I just thought, my friend said to me, actually, oh, there's an advert for Trevor Sorbie. They're looking for colourists. And I was like, well, technicians, they were called then. I've just passed my vardering. I don't know if I can do that. So I was only on the floor about a month. And I thought, sod it, I'm just going to go for it, see if I can. So one of my friends, who was a hairdresser, was my model. I went up and did an interview with a trade test with this model. And they just thought what I did was alternative and thinking out of the box. And I presume that was from what I've been taught from Peter, you know, and the fact that, you know, I don't know, I just thought differently. I remember when I was learning, actually, I couldn't get a grip on blow dries, and it was mainly the round brush blow dry on oh God, I don't even know what the term of the haircut is, but it was all one layer, uniform layer.
Yes.
And then I had to do a round brush blow dry. I mean, trying to cut the hair was bad enough and learn that. So that's what we did in the first year, do cutting and colour, and then I concentrated on what I needed to concentrate on. But blow drying was the thing I just couldn't do. So I remember Peter, saying to me, well, what are you going to do then? And I went, well, I'm not going to cut or blow dry, am I? And he went, well, okay, you're not. So I went down the route of colouring, and he was like, it was always that sort of thing that you would think about things, assess it, really sort of break it down, go, is it for me? No, it's not for me. I don't like doing it. So I then took myself off to Trevor Sorbie, and they accepted me. So I got a post, worked for Trevor in his original salon in Floral Street, was there for a good few years, met Sally and Jamie Brooks when they had just got married. And then after that moved on to more established salons in, so Trevor for me was really funky and it was really cool, and you know that you had lots of different diverse people coming from all different areas and different people working there, and everyone supported each other, and it was absolutely wonderful. And then I decided I was going to move to more sort of these super salons. So I don't know if you know much about super salons.
No.
Okay. So super salons were mainly in areas like Mayfair and Knightsbridge. So Nikki Clark, you could say, is a super salon. Um, and I decided I was going to go to this very old school, beautiful salon, Neville Daniel. I thought, you know what? I loved being at Trevor's and really experienced loads. And I rubbed shoulders with Eugene and Sally and Jamie and loads of creative. Trevor was usually there as well, and it was just amazing. But I saw a lot of the side of hairdressing I didn't want to do because I couldn't really be involved. It was mainly sort of editorial and fashion work and stuff like that. And colorists don't really get involved. As a technician, you're stuck in the salon. And after a while, it gets a bit dull just being behind the chair. Love it, but I needed something more. So for me, moving somewhere completely different, I would learn new skills. No, that's what I thought anyway. So I decided Neville Daniel was looking for, this was before it was Neville Tucker and Daniel Hirschison, they were still together. So this is a long time ago. And I thought, you know what, very different, lovely salon. The back of Harrods, behind Harrods, absolutely beautiful salon. Oh my God.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
imagine coming out of Knightsbridge Station as a very young hairdresser, like 20, and walking past Gucci and Prada and everyone just in Chanel suits and, you know, having a break. I could walk across the road, go into the back entrance of Harrods and just walk round Harrods and be like, I mean, not my thing really, but like, wow, a different
Yeah.
way of life, a different way of life.
What an
Now, when I went,
interesting, I was just about to say, what an interesting juxtaposition that they were all walking around in Chanel suits and us hairdressers are colouring in our bleach stains with Sharpie.
and yes, going from somewhere where first I had to wear black and white all the time when I was training, and I had a t-shirt to make everyone realise you were the lowest of the low, when actually I don't agree with that at all. To then on to somewhere really funky, and to be honest, majority of the people that I worked with in Trevor Soulby would actually have the same clothes on from the night before.
No way.
So come on, we're talking 80s, early 90s. So,
So it was
you know,
wild.
it was, yeah, you'd be like, okay, we know you haven't gone home. Okay, fine. And you're doing a fully booked column now? Okay, fine. And then going to somewhere where you had to wear a jacket, you had to be more, you know, you had to look the part working in Knightsbridge. You know, you couldn't come in dodgy trainers and the clothes from the night before. There's no way. So I learned a lot from, you know, and as you say, a juxtaposition when you're literally, you're going from flip to flip to flip. I was then a colour technician. I had time to, on a Tuesday evening, I would have to stay behind and not have to, I wanted to, but, you know, we chose to or not to teach. And I really enjoyed doing that. But the clientele, I mean, we're talking the days of Hello magazine and OK magazine when they first started coming out. And that's, you know, the clientele that we had. So the people, the names I could give you. But then, of course, at the same time, we had a lot of, in the summer, we'd have a lot of princesses from other realms that would have their hair covered, and we would have to go somewhere into a private room and do their hair, and their hair is down halfway down their back, and half the time you're going, why on earth am I doing this, when you're going to cover it? I mean, they're the most amazing people, the most amazing stories. But then again, you have people that were what you call the it girls, and the you know, of the time, that were in OK and Hello all the time. And I was doing very grounding, foundational colour work, which I really enjoyed. You know, is she wearing highlights or isn't she? You know, how the invisible layers that these stylists put in the haircuts. I mean, one guy that I work with, which you probably know, is Errol Douglas, and he was amazing at his work, but he was also inspirational to everyone that was around him. And what I learnt from being there and working in these super salons is you didn't have to be a name. You could make someone else a name. So I really loved the fact that I was behind the scenes and building up foundational skills for these people to go off and do Colour Trophy, or to go off and do well, anything really, if they wanted to do BHAs or whatever. But, you know, I was behind them just going, come on, you can do this a bit more. You can do this. Go on. This is what you can do. But it was something Neville Daniel never really pushed for. They would go to the BHAs, they would do, but they, you know, they weren't ones that would enter. And that's what I learned from them, I think, you know, that they got other people in the salon to enter. Really fascinating, to be honest.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I liked working in Knightsbridge because you had your corner shop was Harvey Nichols or Harrods, you know. And then from there, from Neville's, I moved to Paul Edmonds, and again, a completely different learning, you know. And this was where people wanted to be in the industry and be industry forerunners, you know. So I learned a lot, again, just wanting to be behind the scenes, still doing my clientele. But this is where I did my L'Oreal Colour Specialist degree. So when I was with Paul's, this is where I was like, okay, I need to go up a step. I'm a colour technician. I need to specialise in this. I need to really know this. And at the time, for me, the only place was L'Oreal to learn this. So, I mean, the most amazing salon to work for, again, in Knightsbridge. I don't think he's there anymore. I think he's in Battersea Power Station, but how lovely is that? And from there, I then re-linked with Sally and Jamie Brooks, and I started working there and then became their manager. And so that's really when I started to get more into the educational side of things. So I'd always taught, but I had to be involved with the education this way, because Brooks and Brooks are forerunners in the hairdressing industry. They make the most amazing hairdressers. They bring in people, they see their potential, and then they make them hone it. And I learnt so much from working with them on the shop floor, as a manager and as an educator. They're phenomenal, phenomenal team, and they will always have a phenomenal team, and they will always work and churn out the most amazing work. Really do. And then I was too knackered. So I left London and came to the sea. So that is my career in like a nutshell. But being by the sea, I realised that working in smaller niche salons, which are absolutely beautiful, there is so much that I know that they have experienced that I just thought they would experience. But why would they, if they are working in a smaller salon in the town that they grew up in? you know. So maybe what I needed to do was build something that I could share this information to give foundations to create solid colour work.
I think when you listen to your story, when you listen to that like quick download of what you've done, when I hear it, because I didn't train in London, I did work in London for a while, not for long. It feels like you came into the industry when it was heavily influenced by fashion, which I feel like that hasn't happened later on, really. And you were in a city that was at the forefront of fashion. So everything you were surrounded with was incredibly creative and things that people who trained outside of London and work outside of London don't necessarily experience, but want. So the reason we buy these magazines, the reason we go on these courses, inspirational courses, a lot of the time is because we want a little taste of that fabulous, fashion driven world of hairdressing that is really hard to get in outside of London, really. There's lots of other amazing cities and I'm sure they've got their own thing, but from my perspective, it's quite hard to get. And then you did the mega luxury it girl working next to Harrods, like that pure high end glamorous side that we imagine from the outside looking in is very glamorous. And you've worked for some of the real powerhouses in the industry. It feels like the 1%. That's probably not the correct way of putting it. I probably butchered that. But do you know what I mean? You've completely been at the top of your game. And how wonderful that now you've created an education company that, yes, it's about foundational colour knowledge, but it's from drawing on that wealth of experience rather than a brand's wealth of experience. Or, do you know what I mean? Someone who hasn't experienced that.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
I mean, it's vital. I think for me, it was vital. For me, to be honest, if I think back at it, there's lonely old me going, "How am I here? How did I look at everyone else around me and the inspirational people that I rubbed shoulders with, that I chatted to, that I joked with, that I see now on, pedestals, that we put these people on pedestals, that are winning awards, that have always won awards, that are so influential." And I'm like, where, how? Because I don't do work like that. But then again, that's what I feel, that's my insecurities. And I think that's where I can resonate with every hairdresser that has ever worked. Anyone I speak to says, "Nah, I'm not as good as that person," or "I'm not, oh, don't get me to do that because I can't, or I'm too scared to," and it's like, well, really, you're not. If you have these skills, and if you have these foundations, and if you can, and you have the passion, then you can do whatever you want in hairdressing. I chose to stay behind the scenes. I'm not one to be out there going, "Look at my avant-garde work," because I'm not that confident that my work is that great. However, I'm sure Eugene would say the same. I'm sure Angelo would say the same. I'm sure Errol would say the same. I mean, the amount of times Errol, bless him, would go for BHAs and the amount of times he didn't win. I mean, it was years until he won. But when he did, my God, did we celebrate. But, even behind the scenes of this, so when I was working at Neville Daniel, they did split, Neville and Daniel, and they started to open their own salons. So Helen Ward took over. And I don't know if you know who Helen Ward is. She married Richard Ward. And they now
Yeah.
have this powerhouse of a beautiful salon in Chelsea. Now that's where they started. And she's always been behind the scenes, writing books and giving seminars to people that want to know about business, because what she's made is the most amazing business. And she's
Yeah.
super insightful. So just rubbing shoulders, like we said straight on, first on when we were talking, who you surround yourself is what makes you. And I I don't I don't know if the opportunity was there all the time, or if it was just that I was too blasé to even think that, oh my goodness, I should be thinking about this. Am I worthy? I'd just go, there's a job, I'm going for it. And then you do a trade test, and then you'd be accepted. So until later on when it became who you know. Oh no, I still did a trade test when I went to Sally and Jamie's. Don't get me wrong. There's no way they would let you in. However, I didn't have to do the vardering. So, they still saw my skills were really good and that I had something to offer. So, but we can all do this. But even if we stay, as now I am in Southsea, but I go all over the place and I speak to so many people all over Europe about colour knowledge.
I think you literally just dropped this little nugget, which I think is a gem. So I'm going to reiterate, I'm going to say it again. What you just said about you led this extraordinary career. You never once thought like, oh, I'm big time, or oh, I'm this, that, and the other. Every step of the way, you were like thinking, oh, am I good enough? Like, I'm not going to enter a competition because I'm not sure if I'm good enough. But you still just did it anyway, because the lesson is the only way you can guarantee failure is to not try. Like, as long as you try, you have a chance. But then also what you said about your skills shone through. So whether you felt like the least confident person in the world or the most confident person in the world, the thing that carried you through and the thing that got you those opportunities was your skills.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, because we let self-doubt stop us, even if we're incredibly skilled. Like, we need to put our faith more in our skills. And if we don't have faith in our skills, then that's the key to moving forward.
Yes, exactly. Now
Which,
it is, isn't it? Isn't it? Like, the thing is a lot of the time it's who you know in a lot of different parts of your life, but is it in what we do? Because I may not have got the job at Brooks and Brooks if my trade test of 3-4 different models wasn't up to scratch. But those grounding foundations had always been there. So I don't know any other way, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Because, my training was tough. And every time I did do a VARDA, so I VARDed at Tony and Guy, finished there after being an apprentice for 3 years, and then moved to Trevor Sorby. I had to VARDA again. I'd just done a VARDA, but I was learning so much more. And it's tough. And I love the fact that a VARDA can be, I don't even think a lot of salons do this anymore, 6 to 3 months, 6 weeks to 3 months, sometimes longer, but you tend to be tested throughout. And what you're doing basically is working on the salon floor, but you're doing models. And then if you haven't got models, you are helping with apprentices. You are helping with the running of the salon, blow drying for people and things like that. And remember, I don't like blow drying, so I made sure I had models. So it is that thing of you're always upskilling. You've got these foundations, and some of them run throughout my whole career. There's definitely some I have not changed. But then different fashions come in and you're like, well, how can I tweak this? I can still use this foundation, but how am I going to tweak this to make it look more modern? And that's where hairdressers are unique with our learning, because we will try and teach ourselves because we are really creative, but we're also outward thinking and we like to think out of the box. So what Peter Ulatowski taught me back in my training at Tony and Guy was that if it doesn't work for you, what's going to work? How can you change it to make it work for you? And so many foundational skills have run through with that. Okay, we've gone from, let's say the most recent change up was about 10-15 years ago, with doing foil highlights back to back, creating this beautiful is she isn't she look, to oh okay, we're now going to give it a sun-kissed look with a bit of root and some shadow.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to then do what I do and change it up for the next client that's coming up that wants that? They've come in and they've said, oh, I want to look like this, and they have a picture of somebody they follow who has grown out their highlights. And that's what I first saw as balayage. And that was 10, 15, 20 years ago. People coming in and saying that, I've seen so-and-so and I want to look like this. Drew Barrymore, for example, and they're like, and you're like, oh, okay. And then someone said, that, where you do your, so I used to always use a paddle, but I used to use it for negative space in between my foiling. So it would always keep that natural look. And then someone said to me in the salon, why don't you do that, but use it with your high lift or your bleach instead? And that was when we first started doing balayage with a paddle. And that was with my friend, who is your friend too, who was working with me in Brooks and Brooks. And we first started doing that. And the reason was because they didn't even like doing foiling. They didn't like foiling. So they preferred that sort of freehand feel, and they ran with it, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But isn't it funny how that's what we do? As hairdressers, you don't even think about it, do you? Someone
No.
comes to sit in your chair and they'll say, okay, I don't want this anymore, but I like this. And you're like, okay, with my skill set, how am I going to get you from this to this in one sitting? Let's think about it. Now, if you have your grounding foundations in a lot of things, not just technique and application, but also in colour theory, then it's a lot easier to break that down. You're not going to be sitting there for hours thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to go back and look in my manual and look at all the... No, you have it here. And then it comes out here.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like I've been hairdressing for 20 years now, and there have been so many instances over the years where something's new's come out. I can remember actually, I had a client come to me and say, I think it was Drew Barrymore's new haircut, someone like that. She's got a bob with invisible layers. Doing the consultation and going, looking at all the pictures. Oh my God, I love it. It's amazing. Yes, that's great. We'll get you shampooed. In the 5 minutes it took for someone else to shampoo her, I ran out the back. I was flipping through pages of Hello magazine to see if I could see a better picture of a haircut. I was Googling to see if I could figure out how they'd done it. Looked like a one length bob with a couple of little short bits. That's all it was. And I was like, what am I going to do? 5 minutes of Googling to then go, okay, it's a one length bob. And someone's just literally chopped into the perimeter. That's all they've done. And because I had those two things in my skill set, I did not produce Drew Barrymore's haircut, because I to this day don't know what that hairdresser did.
No.
However, it was pretty close, because I had those two things in my toolkit and I could work it out. But I think where we kind of fall down with that, maybe a lot of the time, is more in colour. I feel like winging it with colour is harder, in my experience, than it is winging it with a haircut. Because you can make a haircut a bit choppy and, you know, a good blow dry covers a multitude of sins. But like with colour, it's so much harder. And I think for me, I feel like a piece of advice I was given years ago was, if it's a trend, whether you like it or not, you need to know how to do it. So go and learn how to do it, because those are the things that trip you up and you get the big complaints, I feel like, when colours go wrong.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, when you're, so I think for me, really, so balayage came to me, it was at Brooks and Brooks. It was 15 years ago, you know, maybe more. And we have a meeting every year where Sally and Jamie would ask the team, what's coming new then? What's new for this year, you know? And we'd all have our different ideas, style wise and fashion wise and color wise. Now they have a Pantone. We didn't have any of that back then. It was like, oh, let's just see what's coming out. We'd look at all magazines. There'd be people that were really into color theory. There were people that were really into aesthetic cuts. There were, you know, so we would have like this whole show, this whole day where we were just performing in front of Sally and Jamie and the rest of the team. And this is what we think. And for the colour team, it was definitely a balayage board. We didn't even call it that. It was a paddle. We called it a paddle. This paddle, because it looks like you're canoeing, this paddle we use usually to put dark in the hair in between the highlights. What we're going to do with it now is the alternative, the opposite. And we're seeing this at the moment. It's coming from America, it looks like, and it's called balayage, which then we researched, because we had to do that, research the history of it, which actually it comes from the French to sweep. So, you know, we had all this information, which we were told to do. We had a whole day to prepare for that, or a whole time before we had to, you know, present it. And I think it does help. It helps us to stay maybe not on trend, but current, you know, so that we can, oh, okay, you're asking for this. However, I'm not going to be able to do that on your hair because naturally you've got X, Y, Z. So if I did that technique, you're going to come out looking like blonde, you know, rather than blonde, whatever, you know, you are going to look orange, basically. So we still have to stick with highlights, and then that became foliage. And for me, you know, a lot of people have said, oh, you know, it makes colouring lazy, but actually, to be honest, if you think about when I learnt hairdressing, we didn't have toners. No one toned hair. I mean, if you look back at the 80s, with anyone with a global bleach, they were all bright canary yellow. No, nobody had toners, and if you did put a toner on, it was a permanent colour. And you had 6%. You didn't even have 10. You didn't have 3% tenfold. You had 6%, so you would just put it on someone's hair, and they go, "Ah, that hurts." But you're like, I'm trying to cool this off a bit, you know. On a 10 line, you'd use a 10 line.
Yeah.
And then so now I then fast forward to lockdown, and since you've got root smudge, root shadow, what tone do you put on here to here? You know, and or you know, so I had to go and learn that. And that's where testing came out, with swatching and, you know, all the other things. And that's where I started to dive deeper into colour theory, hair science and chemistry, which was way past L'Oreal specialist degree. Way past. Blew my mind what we're not told. And why aren't we told it? Are we seen as that it's not valuable information, or is it seen that we don't need that information? Because I would think, and I do think, we need it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I did a colour specialist degree as well, and I think what I ended up learning was how to use the brand really, really well. So I think a lot of it is, if it's not really applicable to that brand, then it doesn't need to be in the course. But actually, what that does is, as a hairdresser, keeps me stuck. So if I only learn the science that is applicable to the current brand I'm using, then if I want to change brand because it's too expensive, or I'm not getting the performance, or like I've seen this other brand all over TikTok that I really, really want to try, I'm scared because I how do I know it's going to work the same as my brand, which is not? And B, I've just spent all this money on a course. Like, is that all now going to be null and void?
Yeah.
What a waste of money if
Yeah.
I then change brand and I can't use it.
Yeah.
Which is why I love the fact that you do the brand neutral information.
It's vital, I think, and extremely valuable. I'm going to say that word again. I think that having the brand neutrality makes you love every brand. It doesn't make you or make me averse to any brand, but it makes me able to utilize the skills I have, the understanding and knowledge that I have to perform the best colour work to my ability. So we know I have skills, and I have skills, and I do actually learn more skills as well. I take myself off a lot to learn more skills. But the interest for me is in hair science and colour theory. Now, it's scary a lot of the time. I didn't like chemistry at school or physics. I love biology. And actually, if I look back on what I did learn, or what I'm learning now about physics, which is reflection and refraction of light, which we use constantly every day, I understand it, and I understand it way back from when I was learning it through the prism. When white light is shined through the prism, and I'm sure everybody has seen that. If not, they've seen it on a Pink Floyd album, or they have seen it at the rain. When it rains, you see a rainbow. That's exactly what's happening. White light is being split, and that's when we can see all the colors of white light, and that's what's reflecting and how we see. So that's physics in when we're talking about, there's more physics obviously, but in color theory. And it's, when I went to school, physics to me was boring and difficult, and I didn't like my teacher. He wore a stupid waistcoat for one, but he always seemed like he knew everything and I knew nothing,
Yeah.
and I felt like when it came to taking my options, even though I did sort of enjoy parts of it, I didn't want to do it. I love biology though. It was about like blowing into lungs and things like that, and understanding osmosis, and and I may be even talking now when people are going, oh my God, what's she going into now? She's talking like science. It's actually very easily broken down so that when you're reading it in a big book with equations, it might bamboozle you. But if you can take it in smaller amounts, or somebody can assist your learning, you can understand it and grasp it. You can, because if I can, and I left school with nothing, I had an art O level. and that was a grade C. You know, I had nothing. And that's why I went into hairdressing, because that's what I was told to do. Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point you're touching on. And interestingly, I had this exact same conversation with Rachel. It's like a running theme in our industry that there's two things that happen to us at school or when we leave school, is that we either don't perform well within the education system and we're told we're not clever, we're not intelligent, we're not very bright, oh, you should just be a hairdresser. Or we do perform well in the school system, and when we decide to be hairdressers, we're told it's a waste of our intelligence. I think those two things happen a lot. And there is that saying that, you know, everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. And I think that's what's happening in our industry. That there is a big difference between school smart and hairdresser smart. Just like there's a difference between school intelligence and emotional intelligence, or the maths you do in school and doing your tax return. Like, do you know what I mean? That it's just one part of knowledge, and hairdresser knowledge is equally valuable, which segues very nicely actually into Chaulk Mentor, because, so let me ask you this actually. As a hairdresser, okay, if I went through school, didn't do great in it, or did really well in school and, you know, got told it was a bit of a waste to be a hairdresser, and I've done well, like me in my position now, I have a fully booked column and I have lots of clients, and like I may be doing education, maybe not doing education, like to go back and learn hair science and colour theory. A, why do I need it? And B, if I didn't do well at school or if I wasn't interested in it, why am I going to want it now? Do you know, like I feel like that's such a common feeling. And I think actually I dismissed it before we started talking a lot about hair science. I kind of went, oh, I did that, it's not really applicable. But now I know, because of you, why it's so applicable and why it's so easy. So I'd love you to break that down for anyone who's in that specific situation.
Nice. Okay, so I agree. There are two ways from learning at school. There's this way where I think hairdressers are very bright. I think we choose. Okay, so there are two types. I have a friend who went to public school. Her parents paid for her to go. When she left school, she still said, I want to be a hairdresser. And they said, we've wasted all this money on you. Now, she took it at school to just go, okay, I know how this system works. I'm going to work it to my potential. But I still want to do this when I've finished. My youngest daughter's the same. So she did really well at school. Now she doesn't know what she's doing, but at the moment she's still young, so it's fine. And then there's the other side where we see school as, what are you doing trying to put us in a box? We don't fit in this box. You know, we're a square peg and you're trying to put us in a round hole. We don't work. I don't think like that, and I don't work like that. So why am I doing, oh, well, you're stupid then, so off you go, become a hairdresser. The biggest thing that gets me when I was really into educating, when I first moved down to Southsea and I was working in salons, and I was straight away was like, I want to help the apprentices. That's what I want to do, help the apprentices. I'll still have a fully booked column, but I want to have days where I do this. And I remember the apprentices coming in and going, I didn't pass my maths. They're getting me to do my maths again. And, you know, another one, I didn't do well in English. They're getting me to do my English again. What? What? You have to have your English and maths passed. What about art? What about science? Do you understand that this is a fibre? This changes, it's organic and it changes every day. Right, so I would then talk about, I don't know, you buy your jeans, okay? I love talking about the jean analogy. So you buy your blue denim indigo jeans. If you washed them every day, would the colour stay? No, is the answer. You wash them every day, even with really good washing liquid and conditioner that smells nice, and you hang them out to dry. You don't dry them, put them in a tumble dryer or anything like that, which is going to affect the molecules of the denim. You hang them out to dry. Does the colour stay the same? But it's the same then with our hair. Our hair is dead as it leaves the scalp, so we're told. So we can do anything to it. So it means it's biologically dead. It doesn't mean it's chemically dead, because we can chemically change it how we want it to be. If you don't understand the chemical side of this, how are you going to know how to change it to exactly what you want? I mean, I'm asking loads of questions right now. The colour molecules that we mix up for permanent colour, they're clear. How do you know what colour it's going to turn your hair that you're working on? What, just because your brand tells you and you've got these swatches that tell you this is what's going to come out? But these swatches are done on white nylon, not on hair. So learning the fibre of the product that we are working, the canvas that we're working on every day, learning about that and the different structures that there are. And let me tell you, no one is the same, not even twins, because it's all about genetics. So straight away, I'm talking about biology, physics, and chemistry without even talking about it, because I'm getting you to understand that hair is a material and that it will change in the environment it's in, just like your denim, how you treat it, just like your denim, and what you're going to put in it again. So if your denim fades, you could dye them again, but is that dye going to stick? Nothing is permanent. Everything is changing. And if we understand this more, the structure of the hair, the products and how they're made, how they react together, and what the outcome is, you find that one, your consultations are faster, the application will be faster because you'll know straight away what you're going to do, and the formulation will be solid. And that is why I teach the science, the chemistry, colour theory. And that is why Chaulk Education came about, and why Mentor isn't just for apprentices. It's for anybody who wants to learn more about the structure of hair and the products that we use. This isn't taught anywhere. I told you, Laura, didn't I? The other day I was talking to somebody who wants to learn more about this, and their education, the real education we have is right at the beginning of our learning of our hairdressing career, and it's the colleges, and it's government funded and it's government allowed. So basically the curriculum is what the government thinks we need. Do they know how to colour hair? I'm sure they've asked specialists, but you know, let's go past that. Because all I'm seeing is this girl that I spoke to the other day, she did her training 22 years ago. Not once did they talk about art or chemistry. So is it just about the application, the technical side of placement, or is it also about understanding how that fibre works and the products that you apply to that fibre and what you're going to get as results?
Yeah, I think so. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because when I first came across Chalk Mentor, when I saw it on your Instagram, I assumed it was for trainees. But what I hear now that you're saying is if you want less complaints, if you want more reliable results, if you want really to save money, because redos are expensive, having to mix up 2 or 3 toners because the first one's not gone quite right, or you haven't quite got the lift, or it didn't quite turn out how you want, that's expensive. So it's going to save you money. It's going to make you faster. So it's going to make you money because you're going to be able to fit more people in. And it's going to help you feel better because you're going to feel more confident. You're going to know, like, how much money would you pay to not go in the staff room and go, shit, oh my God, I've just done this toner and it's grabbed on the ends? Or can you just drive by my client, just do a little drive by and just have a look, because I don't know if the toner's gone too grey, but the ends still look really yellow. Can you just have a look? I've left her at the basin. Just tell me what I need. I would pay so much money to
I've
not
been
have to
there.
feel like that.
I have been there so often. And I think that's the thing that I was asked, and as you have asked, why do I need this? I've got a fully booked column. What I do works. Does it? Because if it did, why are you running into the dispensary or into the staff room and going, help, please, shit, what am I going to do now? Oh my God, what can I use? I mean, I have so many scenarios of people even coming to me with like, I put a toner on, the hair's going pink. I was like, it's a reaction. Don't worry, let it sit. It's this brand, and this brand's toners do this. If there's any slight amount of bleach residue left in there, this brand toners will go pink. Help, please, help. You know, we then learn from that, don't we? So, oh, okay, now I can sit. So this also, learning these skills, having in your back pocket the foundations of colour theory will help you be brand neutral, which means you can choose different brands and different parts of the brands. I like that bleach. I like their reds. I like their toners. I like their direct dyes. I love their permanent blondes. Permanent blondes? They're high lifts, you know? So you can then mix and match. One, your cupboard will shrink. Two, you'll feel more confident because you're using things that work for you. So like back when we started talking, what works for you? Find it out. It might be different in different parts of the UK, the Europe, the world. One, because our water is different. Two, because of the environment that we're living in. From moving to London to the sea, I've had to change what shampoos I use, how I colour my hair, how frequently I wash my hair, what I sleep on. It's all changed because the water's different and the atmosphere, the environment is different. So my fibre doesn't work the same. So remember that when you go on holiday or when your clients go on holiday and they're like, oh my God, my hair did nothing. And the water was so soft. It's the same wherever you go. So what works for you, Laura, where you are just outside Bristol? I haven't been stalking you. I'm sorry. No, we're friends. might not work for me down here where I've got chalky water, you know? So it's really understanding where you are and what you're trying to do for each client and what each client needs. And honestly, it's so much fun coming to any of my courses, as Laura can tell you, because I understand that when we talk about science or colour theory or physics or light reflection, that it may make us stand off. It may make us go, well, I don't need to know that because I've got a fully booked column and it's working for me right now. One day it might not. And you might not have a brand that you can phone.
Yeah.
Hey, this has happened. What's happened with your products? Have they changed? It's never about their products. It's about what we know. So there's some little bit of information that you need to fill that gap in.
Yeah. Actually, I think as well, for me, it's been really helpful because I'm a freelance hairdresser now. I work on my own. So I don't have someone in the back room that can do a drive-by. I don't have someone who can instantly help me with a toner. I can message you, but you might not see it for an hour.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I have to have 100% that knowledge because it's just me and it's all down to me and there's no one immediately who I can ask advice from. And I do feel like since I've done your course, I've gained that knowledge. Like I feel like, yeah, like I can deal with pretty much anything. Interestingly, I described your course. Someone asked me about your course and I said the best way I can describe it is like very advanced hair science meets Blue Peter because you make it so simple. Yes. And all the things you make loads of things, don't you? And you draw loads of pictures and you get us to do these like experiments. Because although I do love the science side of things, if you start using words to me like light refraction, my brain goes, oh yeah, this doesn't apply to me. Oh yeah, like I don't know about light refraction. I just want to colour hair. But when I was on your course, I never felt like that because it was so interactive. And I think I'm saying this because there's probably going to be people listening who feel scared about going on a hair science course and who feel like, yes, this could be helpful, but there's no way I would be able to keep up. And I think one of the problems with hair science is people do think because they didn't get science at school or because they wouldn't get like very sciencey words, then they're almost like, oh, there needs to be a beginner's class to get to the next level, But actually in your classes, I feel like you start from very, very basic and work your way up, and it's so easy to understand it. Like my brain never switched off in your class. My brain was like, oh, now I know what. Oh my God, I can't remember what the word was. You were talking about the pH level, and you used a specific word that from pH 5 to pH 6 isn't just one; it's something else. And I was like, I learned a new word today.
Logarithmic. So that's maths. That's maths, and that I'm sorry. I think I got a fail in maths, you know, and it's for me, I had to make it simple for me to understand it, right? I watch all these amazing Instagram stories and posts from I don't know, different pages that are science based, right? And they'll blah, 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 and I'm like trying to filter out and get the keywords. I'm a bit like AI, getting the keywords and then repeatedly looking at the video and working it out myself. Oh, okay, that's done that. Okay, so that's done that. Okay. So it's quite incredible to have these simplified breakdowns, and that's what I do, you know. So because I need it, you know, I couldn't sit with, who is it in the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon, and you know, I used to watch it, I don't watch it anymore. um and I would sit there not understanding, I'm sure I would. However, I actually had to work it and break it down, hence why I've got a lot more of these books. They're all over the place. And I will, if somebody has a query, and I mean most of the time I do have an answer, because that's all, like, it's part of me, it's ingrained in me. But if I don't, I will get the books out and I'll look at every book. Oh, what does it mean here? Oh, it said that. How is it repeated? Oh, it's repeated here, but then that's been added. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. And then, oh, okay, so, oh, and here's a diagram. Oh, okay, so now I can actually make it into my own visual analogy, because I can't visualize very well. I can't retain information very well. And I'm no good at science, but it interests me because it's my job. And I think hairdressers are the same. I think, you know, I get people that have commented and said, I think I wouldn't be clever enough to come on your course. And it breaks my heart, because I think I don't want to come across that way. And I hope I don't, because I break down things like my Lego analogy to talk about bonds within the hair. Now, I mean, that I think just blew quite a few people's brains whenever I've taught it. And again, you just, by building a wall, you're like, oh, okay. So that is that bond, and that's, I can remember this. I've been told these 3 bonds that are really important in the hair, but I don't know what they do. Sarah's just broken it down by showing me a Lego brick. You know, so that's what I try and do. And I would never use words like, okay, I say it's a logarithmic scale, but we chuck that out the window and I'll tell you what it actually means. It goes up times 10. That's all you need to know. Then you can get your calculator out to know what 1 times 10 or 100 times 10 or 1,000 times 10 is. And then you can work out how much more alkaline or acidic a product is. And then you can work out which product you need to use to keep the hair in the natural state it likes to sit in. Why does everyone love Red Ken? Because it's at an acidic level. It's actually more alkaline than the hair, but it's in an acidic level. So the hair likes it and it performs and looks glossy. So loads of people love Red Ken. They say it's easy. Because they've made it easy for you.
Yeah. Which is really interesting, right? So if you're not, say if you work in a salon and your boss doesn't stock Redken, but you love the like how Shades EQ looks. If you have the correct information of why Shades EQ looks the way it does, you can say, okay, now what can I do within the range I use? Or what can I do to the hair before I use the range I use to get the same results as you can get with a Redken Shades EQ? But you have to know the info, right?
Exactly. And I mean, my courses are pretty much, I was saying this to someone the other day, they are pretty much the same course. But so you have one which is very foundational, which is a video which you can go on my website and watch it. You can purchase it and watch it and have it. Then you'll want to do something else because you'll want more answers. So then you can go on Chauk Mentor, which is a supported membership for a year. So you can learn at your own pace. You can talk to me throughout that. We do Zooms. We have a private Instagram page which shares so much more information, more than you get on the actual program. So you can go, okay, I'm on this module now and I saw something somewhere. Oh, there it was. She was talking about consultation. And there I have a consultation sheet. Let's break this down. Okay. You know, so it, everything relates, but I give even more on the Instagram page. And then that's for a year. But you can DM me whenever you want, message me, got any questions, anything. I'm always there. Or you come on Become a Colour Master, which is pretty much the same. Probably it changes all the time because I'm learning more all the time. And I'm actually having to split it into 2 days now because there's too much information and it blows my brain and it blows everyone else's. So we're going on the theory of hair and the chemistry of products. And then the next day is how we see colour. So I don't say refraction and reflection. It's how we see colour. You see colour completely differently to I see colour because of our makeup of our eyes, because of where we are in the whatever hemisphere. If we've got, I don't know, tinted glasses on, we can see colour completely differently. We could be colourblind. You know, you just don't know. Well, hopefully you do. So then we talk about things on the second day like that. But then also in between that, I do so many experiments, and I don't like to even call them experiments. They're activities where we all play. And I also getting guest speakers as well to talk about certain things like, okay, how do you take a photograph? How does light affect your photograph? You know, when we take a photograph of someone's hair we've done, and it never looks the same on the camera as it does. Well, we can tweak it so it does. So you actually see it as it's actually seen by your eye, because I've got a photographer that comes to help. So, you know, there's a lot involved. So it depends what you want. You can watch some videos. You can come on a whole 12-month journey with me, or you can come on Become a Colour Master, which is 2 days long. You can even choose. You might not want to do the colour side. You might just want to do the theory of hair and products. Or you might just want to do the colour side and not the theory of hair and products. Or you can do both. And that way you have these foundations which you will never have to call anyone up ever again to do a drive-by.
I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's so good. It's so valuable. It's so because so interestingly, when you said about the way we see colour, I had this massive aha moment on your course of, so many people are going to relate to this. You know, you have that client that you bleach her to within an inch of her life and you basically dye it the greyest ash in the world, and she looks in the mirror and goes, still looks yellow. Why does it look so brassy? And you think, am I going mad? Like, what is wrong with me? And then you say to everybody, does that look yellow to you? Because like she can still see yellow. And when I was on your course and you told me the thing about seeing colour, I went, it does look yellow to them. That's all it is. We just see colour differently. So I'm looking at it going, any cooler and it will be grey, dye it grey, because they can still see yellow. Doesn't matter what I can see. If they can see yellow, I'll dye it grey.
Exactly.
It was like mind blown.
And that, having that knowledge now, you can, when your clients come to you and they show you visual representations of what they want, and you're looking on their screen and you're like, okay, so what do you see here? Oh, I love that warmth. Do you see anything else there? And they may say no. And you then say, well, I see a little bit of violet there. I mean, the amount of times that Rachel Lomax has told me that there's violet in copper, and now I can see it. I don't know if she's persuaded me that much, or if, I don't know, it's just there now. It's so funny. But when you have that, you can actually get a visual representation and know what they see. You know, so when people look at another one is when your client looks at a colour chart and they say, I don't want any red. Don't want any red in my hair at all. And then they point to a deep red wine colour.
Yes.
And you're like, that's very intense red with a bit of blue. Okay. But isn't it mad? And they don't see it. They do not see it. So
No.
go with it. Go
Yeah.
with it. At
And
least
it's
then you've actually halved your consultation time. Oh my God. That's how they see colour. Great.
yeah. And it's not because we're hairdressers and they're clients. It is literally in our eyes, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's not we go, oh well, that's really, really red. That's like a copper red. And they're saying they don't want any red in their hair, but asking for a copper red. That's not what it is. But we think or that's what I thought it was
Yeah.
before. They just don't know colour, they just don't understand it. But it's not. It's just how they see it.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
It's the same with, see, this is where words I think are quite important and sometimes confusing. So I did this over the past few days. I've done this questions on lightness and brightness. Now, for me, when if you asked me about 10 years ago, I would say, well, they're the same thing, aren't they? Technically, they are. They make the hair brighter and lighter, but they do completely different things. So for hair to look lighter, it has to be on the depth level. So it has to go up in the levels. Whereas brightness is more about tone. So you can be the depth you are, Laura, but you're how bright you are. And you haven't bleached this. I know you haven't bleached this. So you don't have to be light to be bright.
No. And also, there is that thing, isn't there, about people who have really, really, really light bleached their hair, like it's gone as white as you can get it, but then you put an ash toner on it, and because yellow is brighter than blue, it looks duller, and then the client comes back and says, it doesn't feel bright enough, I want my hair brighter. And it feels impossible because you can't lighten it anymore because the hair will break. But it's not the lightening that's the problem. It's the fact that I'm using an ash.
Yeah.
If I use some gold, it doesn't mean I have to go from like ash to yellow. It just means I could just put a bit of gold in. Then it would actually look brighter.
Yeah.
So that's such a good thing to talk about, Sarah. I love that.
It is, isn't it? It really is. And I think that's where we get confused with, like, when clients say, I don't want to be red, and then they point to a 744 or a 7cc, for example. And you're like, well, that's copper, that's red. It's copper, but it's on the red side, yeah? It's yellow and red mixed together. It's that simple. But they don't see that. So it's like, not that we can educate them, but we could say, well, that technically is still red because it's yellow and red mixed together to make orange, but you like that. Okay, let's go for that then.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Oh, I can see how that would make consultations so much easier. I love that.
Yeah.
So, where can people find all your stuff, and where can people sign up for Chaulk Mentor? Give me the deets, and then I'll put them in the notes below the podcast as well.
Thank you. So I have my Instagram page, my Facebook page, TikTok, and YouTube. Oh my goodness, we do so much, don't we? And they're all at Chaulk Education.
Oh, that's simple. And spell Chaulk for me.
Chaulk.
Okay, cool. So it's not chalk that you write with.
It is actually the original spelling, the foundational spelling of chalk. See what I did there? So we used to spell chalk, Chalk, Chaulk. And for me, we use chalk for building foundations. So if we're making a road, we'll map it out in chalk. If we're learning, we use a chalkboard. If we're building a building, we map it out in chalk. We have chalk lines that we do with chalk and string to map anything out. We now have chalk spray paint. So to me, it had to be chalk because we work from the grounding foundations up. So you can find me on my website, which is Chaulk Limited, chaulk.co.uk, Chaulk. And that's where you'll find Chaulk Mentor as well.
Amazing, thank you. So, because we have been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, I feel like we could go on for 3 hours.
Oh,
So
definitely.
We definitely could. Maybe we should do a part 2. No, I mean that'd be good. I feel like I want to do something with you and Rachel as well. Don't answer that now. Don't break my heart. I'd love a 3-way with you and Rachel.
Oh yeah, we've done that before as well on stage.
Yes, we did. We did at Salon International. So I want to ask you a closing question, okay, to wrap all this up, all right? And it is, imagine that everything you've created up until now disappeared, okay? So Chaulk Education was gone, Chaulk Mentor was gone, your Instagram was deleted. Like all of these people that have been on your courses like me just suddenly forgot the information, right? And you had to leave one message to people, like one core foundational thing, like one value that you stand for and that Chaulk stands for, to be kind of remembered by. What would that be?
Oh, I've been thinking about this. I have to say, core would be, don't forget your foundation skills and hone them and make sure that it works for you.
I love that.
That's it, really. You know, like foundational skills cannot be replaced. And even if you lost your memory, your hands would still know what to do.
I love that. I love it. Do you know what that reminds me of? Do you remember the story of the man who built his house on the sand?
No? Tell
Oh,
me. Tell me.
all right, so it's a quick one. There's 2 guys, right? There may be more. It's a bit like the 3 Little Pigs story, right? One of them built his house on the sand and one of them built his house on the rock. And when the tide came in, the tide came in over all of it, right? And when it came in, it washed the house built on the sand away. But the house built on the rock, the one with the strong foundations, could weather every single storm year after year after year after year. Whereas the man who built his house on the sand with no foundations or slippery foundations, his house kept being washed away and he had to keep rebuilding it.
I love that.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It's a good one. And it's so true.
It's so true. That's your thing, isn't it? That's your superpower, is building the strongest foundations possible so that people can weather every storm, no matter what clients ask for, no matter what they come up against. Their foundations are strong so they can weather every single storm. Definitely. And that's what Chaulk does, right?
Yeah. Empowerment.
I love that. I love it. Sarah, thank you so much for talking to me.
Do we have to go?
I know. Well, yeah, no, I know. I worry that if I have my podcast episodes too long, people will be like, oh God, I'm not listening to that. 4 hours long. Gotta keep it bite-sized.
Yeah. Oops. Never get us talking again.
That's fine, we could just do another part. It's not a problem
Yeah.
at all, is it?
Okay.
Awesome.
I would love to. Definitely.
Yeah, I would love to. Amazing.
Thank you
So
so much.
thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you to everybody who's tuned in and listened to this, and I hope you got something mega valuable out of it, because I actually did. I did. I'm going to go back over all my notes from Colour Masters now.
At least you don't have to pay again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, love, and I will speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon. You take care. Bye.
Bye.